One of the most interesting bits in Ambi's book is about grooming. And I want to start off with telling all the men in this room, please trim your nose hairs before going on Zoom. Okay? You're getting all the angles wrong, and people are saying things that they really shouldn't. Now, this may sound really ridiculous and silly, but personal grooming is actually one of the key things when you're developing a brand, because as an individual, you are representing yourself, and how well groomed and how well presented you are is a reflection of who you are. Whether you are a personal brand as an individual, like say someone like Ashwin, or whether you are a personal brand within a corporate structure, like Tapan and Ambi, both of these things, branding matters. And at the personal level, unlike for the corporate level where you have big brand bibles telling you where the brand should be, how you should present yourself, who you should associate yourself with, at the personal level, you don't have these guidelines, which is what a lot of the things that Ambi talks about and why it becomes important for you as an individual to understand how you need to portray yourself, what you need to say, when you need to say it, where you need to say it. Now, all of these gentlemen are in branding. You've probably thought to yourself, what is this guy from food doing on a branding show? So they have taken up branding. I have chosen not to be a brand, and I'm hoping within this 45 minutes that they will convince me and you guys on why you should become a personal brand and how you go about doing it. So I'm going to start off with all three of you, but with Ambi, to tell me in 3 or 4 words, what is your personal brand and why you have chosen these 3-4 words. And Ambi, if you can just tell us why just 3 or 4 words are more than enough to sum up a personal brand.
Okay, thank you, Antoine, for the question, and thank you, Pune International Lit Live, for inviting Pune International Literary Festival. Right? Sorry, I keep saying Lit Live, for inviting me here. If I were to describe myself as say 3 or 4 words, I would probably say analytical, insightful, and thinking and learning. That would be my thing. I think it's important for each of us to try and describe ourselves in 3 or 4 words, because that kind of gives you the pole star on what you want to be, what you want to strive for. And the important thing is also to make sure that it is not us. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? I think Steve Jobs said that. So I may say I'm very analytical, I am very perceptive, I'm very creative, I'm very humorous, I make people laugh. Hello? But are people around you saying that? That's the acid, that's where the rubber meets the road. So I may think I'm brilliant, but if people around me say that this guy is very boring, I'm sorry, that's, Shatrujit is here, so Shatrujit is smiling, but Shatrujit probably disagrees with me on the stuff I said about analytical and all that, but short answer, 3-4 words is your pole star. That's.
Tapan?
So when you ask me this question, it makes me think. I don't think I went about thinking about personal brand and trying to put myself in 3-4 words. I've been what I am. I write what I feel like, and I present myself the way naturally I should be. Now it can fit into any category, but if I ask about my obsessions, which is there, I can talk about that, and the branding, as he rightly mentioned, is up to the people to perceive. So my obsession would be to make a difference in society. That's one. Second is that I should be accessible to anybody. I have 14 crore customers. Anyone wants to reach out to me, they should be able to reach out to me and my people, which should be there. And the third thing would be that I should be what I am. I should not put up a facade of any kind. I think those are three things that I would think and work about, but I really don't try to put myself in any kind of straitjacket bucket of what I want people to perceive about me.
Ashwin?
Well, first of all, I don't even really know whether I am a brand, but for me, my writing was in some ways a reflection of a deeper thought, which was that a lot of the things that we consider to be fact, very often those could be fiction. And very often things that we consider to be fiction could also hold an element of fact. And so the thought that arose, which resulted in my very first book, was that myth plus history is equal to mystery. And pretty much if I had to sum myself up, that's what drives me. And I think that's the reason why people pick up an Ashwin Sanghi book. So I'm very, very curious about where there is an overlap between what we would commonly consider as myth and what we would commonly consider as mystery. And when we start digging into those overlaps, they produce a mystery.
Okay. Sorry.
I want to come in because you raised this thing about 3 words, etc. It's from my book. And for those people, Kevin Keller, I keep mixing theory and, stuff. So let me add this, give back to you. So Kevin Keller has this thing about what is called brand mantras. And every big brand has to describe itself in 3 words. So what is the brand mantra of Disney? Fun, family, entertainment. What is brand mantra of Nike? Authentic, athletic performance. What is the brand mantra of McDonald's? Probably fun, family, food. Right? So that's where this 3-word mantra comes from. Back to you, Antoine.
Thanks, Ambi. Ashwin, just coming back to you, since we are at a literary festival and a book festival, sure. In the previous generation of authors, if we take a Wilbur Smith or Frederick Forsyth or any of the other generation, you line them up in front of us, none of us would be able to really pick up who they were. But in today's generation, as an author, as a writer, it is almost impossible to be invisible. If you are invisible, your books are not going to sell on scale. If you're a small writer, that's fine, and you're looking for. Do you not think in that context then that being a personal brand influences the sales of your book and how well you succeed as an author?
Well, to start with, obviously, I think, it's very difficult, Antoine, as we were discussing in the green room back there, it's difficult to say that is it the brand that makes the story work, or is it the story that makes the brand work? I would say probably the starting point is a great story, because without that, it's very difficult to get to the next stage, which is to create a brand around yourself. But when I had written my very first novel, The Rosabal Line, I had to self-publish it. And in fact, it was self-published under a pseudonym. So I wasn't even thinking about creating my brand because I was actually giving up my identity of sorts. It's only a year later when it was published in India and my publisher turned around and said, listen, we need to lose the pseudonym because we need to have you out there promoting the book. And the Rosabal Line went on to become a moderate bestseller. It was critically acclaimed, but not something to write home about in terms of the numbers. And that prompted me to start making the rounds of the bookstores. And one of the very first stores that I walked into, I can see Harshal sitting somewhere. Yeah. So one of the very first stores that I walked into was the Kemp's Corner bookstore of Crossword. And along with me was a salesman from my publisher. And I couldn't find my novel anywhere on the front shelf. So I asked the guy, the store clerk, I said, do you have any books by Ashwin Sanghi? I'm told that he's a very, very brilliant and prolific writer. So he looked up his computer and he said, yes, we have 3 books. And so I went to the back of the store, which is where the books were located, picked them up, ran my kerchief over them because they had a thick layer of dust, and brought them and put them right in the front where people could see it. And the reason why I did that was because this particular salesperson at Westland said something very important to me. He said, sir, jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. And never forget that. So you may spend 2 years or 3 years crafting a novel, but if you're not visible, you're not going to be sold. And I've realized over the last 15 years journey that visibility and availability are the 2 cornerstones when it comes down to retail. Now, what is it that a new author is supposed to do? Because it's not as if retail or distribution is instantly going to pick up several copies of his book.
Ashwin, I don't want to get into that part of into marketing.
No, but the brand is what leads to discoverability, Antoine. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, great.
That it is ultimately, if you long term want discoverability, whether it's in distribution, whether it's in marketing, you need to have some sort of a brand. What I am looking for, the best that I can hope for, is that when someone walks into a store and they see an Ashwin Sanghi book, at least they are willing to give it a shot because they have experienced Ashwin Sanghi in the past. And that is good enough reason for them to be able to pick up the book without necessarily flipping into the back cover.
Fabulous, Ashwin. Ambi, there's a sense that, someone as an individual needs to promote themselves as a brand, and that is understandable. Within a corporate structure, should individuals develop personal brands or not? What are the dangers, and how does one do it in a way that is not in conflict with the company that you're working with?
Anton, I think a lot of companies earlier used to be very wary of their managers projecting themselves outside. You had to get corporate approval for writing a column in a newspaper, etc. But that has all changed now, because companies are clear that while the company brand is being built, it's good if the senior executives build their own brand, because building their own brand, they can attract better talent. Even within the company, better talent will work with you, etc. So I think today companies, I think, are quite okay, including several companies which say that, look, you have to go and give a lecture at a lit fest, or you go to some campus, Ahmedabad or Calcutta or whatever, to give a talk. Go ahead, we'll pick up the tab, right? We'll pay for it. This change has happened in the last 10 years. Fortunately for me, in FCB Ulka, I had a very, very wonderful boss, Anil Kapoor. Shatrujit has interviewed him when he was in AFAX. So he used to encourage this. He says, yeah, you get a call, go. Company will pay for it, go. Because at that time he said, look, you have to build because he was very publicity shy. He used to hate journalists, except
just to interrupt you there, Ambi, you're saying this is 10 years ago. This is not a new phenomenon.
It's not new. Those days we had to work much harder. Today, he's got LinkedIn and he can post it and million people can see it. But those days you had to write an article, Satrajit was there in Brand Equity to publish it, or Business Line to publish it, etc. So he used to do that. But the problem is, where do you draw the line? Where is your personal brand and where's your corporate brand? So as long as I was in FCB Ulka as the CEO, EDO, whatever I wrote was always positive about my agency's parent company, which I was not a big fan of, but I had to say good things about IPG, and I had to say good things about FCB, and I had to say good things about all my clients, because you don't say anything negative about it. And also kind of be guarded if you want to write something negative about a client whom you'll be chasing. A few years time you want to get that client, you don't see negative. So you have to be very careful what you write, because company is paying a salary. You can't go and say that smoking is bad for you, because ITC is a key client, so I won't say that. I may believe that, but I won't say that. Today I may say that. Today I'm free. I can write technically whatever I want. So if you're working in a company, you're building your personal brand, I think it's important that you follow what is known as the social media policy of that company. If you don't know what it is, please go and ask the HR team. You know, every big company should have a social media policy which will tell you what to write about, what not to write about. After that, I think, you know, as long as you don't cross the Lakshman Rekha, go ahead, build your brand. Because you build your brand, you attract better people to your company image gets built up, you know, that this company probably has benefited tremendously, you know, with Tapan's, you know, personal brand. So today companies are okay with that. Good old days, I think, a lot of CEOs were very kind of worried if someone below them, you know, started writing articles in Economic Times or Business Standard or whatever, right? Satyajit is smiling. They used to feel very insecure, you know, mujhe nahi bulaya, tere ko kaise aa gaya. But it was very perceptive managers, you know, CEOs says, no, go ahead and write, you know, go ahead, build your own brand, because it will help the company. It will project the image of the company, and of course it will attract better talent to the company. So if you're working in a company, and if you're doing something on building a personal brand, just be careful. You don't say anything negative about your company. Be positive. You don't need to say rara all the time, but at least be neutral to positive. Be positive about your customers. Don't say negative things about your customers. And go ahead and build your own unique brand. You can build a unique brand by being humorous, by being, you know, by being very perceptive, by writing incisive articles. You can do all that. I think there is a line. You cannot cross the line.
Tapan, would you agree with what Ambi is saying? I mean, do you encourage juniors within Bajaj Alliance to like develop personal brands? What's your take on this?
So let me give you a story about 10 years back, as Ambi mentioned. So when I started on social media, one of my senior colleagues mentioned to me, you spend too much time on social media. So I told him, you spend too little. Today when I look at all those who criticized me for being on social media, I actually have an agency to help them build their brand. Each. So I really don't go back and tell and remind people of old conversations. I'm aware that they'll be aware of what it. The issue is that when times change, you have to change with that. There's no more about personal brand, no more about corporate brand. No, people would not read an article on social media posted by the company. If they read also, the readership is very small. When an individual posts, then the readership is very high. Today, people who are good in social media have more readership than Economic Times has when an article gets published. So we have to see the tectonic shift which has happened. So it's no about personal branding, it's about, you have to be there. And a company trying to do a branding on social media does not give that kind of mileage as you do. So we look at our company, I think most of my senior executives would have very strong presence on social media, which we encourage.
How do you control that message? How does Bajaj control what its employees?
So this to me is one of the biggest myths or arrogance that you have to think that you can control social media. The only issue is if somebody is not aligned to the corporate philosophy, that person may not work with you. But you can't control somebody to be aligned to what you want to do at a personal level. I think it's not done. Individual freedom has to be respected. And everybody would be different. It is not necessary that you be aligned with what it is. But if you're in an organization, and if you are not aligned to the organization, you can be part of some other organization. Today, India offers that opportunity to individuals. But trying to curb freedom, trying to curb or put them into straitjacketing, does not work. I think the era, and if you look at today, anything which we say do, it's already all over the place. Like you have enough digital records of you, whether you like it or not. If anyone wants to find out something, your photo, videos, in the street you came through, all of you, wherever you came from, if you want, I can sit with the police headquarters, figure out every place has that video camera. I can exactly track you from where you have been coming. You may think about, you being completely invisible. It's not so. You're very, very visible. Whatever you say, whatever you do, is all recorded. You have digital footprints all across. Anybody wants to find out what you can do. So in an era like this, how do you want to straitjacket people or force them to thinking? Never do so. Is the alignment with organizations. If they're not aligned, they can be with somebody else. It's perfectly fine. but never try. So we never try to force anybody to have anything.
It's interesting. I mean, both of you all have talked about straitjacketing, and that's something that even I have been thinking about when it comes to personal branding. Once you take up these three words or whatever, once you identify yourself as something, do you get straitjacketed into that? Do you have any freedom to express different opinions? I mean, is it possible for Ashwin Sanghi to write Chiclet one day? What happens to his personal brand then? Is there a danger with that, Ashwin?
Of course there is. After I had written my first 2 or 3 novels, Antoine, it was taken for granted that I'm a writer of historical and mythological fiction. And I started out by saying myth plus history is equal to mystery. But to a very great extent, what happened was that it prevented me from moving further and trying out newer genres. So I had to make a very, very conscious effort. When James Patterson came along, those novels did not involve mythology or history. Those were out and out crime thrillers. But I knew for a fact that by doing that, I would be breaking out of the mold, and I could establish myself also as a crime thriller. And luckily for me, both of those novels became New York Times bestsellers, so I established myself in that sense. And then after that, suddenly, one fine day, my publisher turned around and said, listen, you keep talking about this, how lucky you are and how luck played a role in your life. So you should write a book about luck. And I ended up writing a small little novel called 13 Steps to Bloody Good Luck. And then, of course, that became into another series. So I think today now, I have reached that point where I think people say that, hey, listen, probably Ashwin cannot be boxed. Physically, in any case, it's very difficult to box me. But the point I'm making
With a
is
big
that
box we can, yeah, big box, very big box, jumbo box.
But I think, someone like, for example, Shatrujit sitting right in front, I mean, he knows how difficult it is that once you have attained a modicum of success in a certain space, then the world expects you to keep doing more of that. So you also have to consciously allow your brand to be evolving with that. So, for example, I end up not only writing my books, but I also do columns where sometimes I'm taking a very different take. I do a lot of discussions, a lot of events. I do a lot of speeches. Very often when there are speeches and events, I try and take positions which are rather alien to me because it involves that much more research and it develops my research bank. So I think if you decide that you want to be straitjacketed, you will be straitjacketed. It's as simple as that. I think your brand has the capacity to evolve.
Yes, Ambi?
Yeah, great. I think Ashwin has given a great journey, his own journey. I mean, where did my journey start? I started writing so-called case study books, which were used in my own class to teach advertising, right? This was the year 2000 when the first book came out. And then second, third, fourth, fifth came out. All of them are aimed at the academic crowd, the MBA, BBA crowd, right? Simple, easy to read case studies, not those complicated long ones like Harvard. 4 or 5 pages, you'll know how Santur was built or Sundrop was built or Godrej Storewell or Nerolac. Simple 4 or 5 page case studies, nicely illustrated. In fact, one professor in the US, in fact, was consulted by my friend, said, who will publish a book like this? It looks like a promotion piece for the agency. But yeah, Tata McGraw published it. They published 5 of my books. And then came a stage, I said, look, that is one genre, let me try something else. And then I was lucky that my agent at that time, Anish Chandy, gave me an idea. And then I converted my PhD thesis into a very easily approachable book on religion and marketing. And Vishwakarma Publishing came out with a Marathi version. Then I wrote something on advertising, Nawab New Noodles. And I said, okay, I'll try something else. I wrote about what you can learn from customers. The latest one, which is this one, so I'm showing it with your permission, which is All the World's a Stage, personal branding story. So when I started writing it, I could have easily written it as personal branding, step 1, step 2, step 3. I said, no, I want to write it completely different. Right? And I talked to my agents, yeah, I'm going to write it like as if 5 old friends meet on their silver reunion in their campus. And they get into an argument on what is branding and what is personal branding, and it's all nonsense. Right? One very successful businessman says, it's all nonsense. Yeah, I built my company, 800 crore company, I've done IPO. You know, I've not done any personal branding. It's all crap. But that's how it starts. That's how the argument starts. And 5 people then, over 2 hours, talk about it. And that is presented as a story here. So it's a very different approach. I've never written anything close to this in my previous books. They were all about brands and consumers or meeting clients or what you can learn from clients. Slightly more, shall we say, erudite. I tried something different. I mean, whether it will work or not, I mean, jury's still out. Reviews are good. I mean, including several of my friends telling me that, you know, this looks interesting, yeah. I mean, I wish I had read this book when I was, 25, 30 years, age. But seems to be working, but it's a new approach. So I feel, Ashwin said is right, it's up to you. You can get boxed in it, but the fun is going outside the box and trying new things. You will fail. Something will flop. You will get banned. You will get cursed. Okay, that's okay. That's par for course. Right? But you need to try new things.
A little bit like a food writer being on a brand panel.
Yeah.
A little bit like a food writer being on a brand panel.
Exactly. Food. I mean, a very famous food guy on a brand panel. Like, when I started my career in advertising, I looked very young. So advertising get to meet senior people. So I looked at my boss, he had a beard. So I said, yeah, I should also have a beard. So I had a nice fuzzy beard. Those days, beard was not cool. Very few people in corporate India had beard, except for people in advertising. So I left advertising, I went and joined a British multinational called Boots Company. They make Colder and Strepsils, Bernal, Brufen, Digene, all of you are aware of. So I had this very scruffy beard. And I think the 3rd day in office, my MD, B.M. Ponappa, used to look like a colonel, met me in the loo and he said, Mr. Parmeshwaran, beard is okay for advertising. You are now in a British pharmaceutical company. And he washed his hand and left. Next day the beard came off. After that I'm not going to beard. So even in your physical appearance, you may need to make some occasional changes to suit which direction you're going in. So making changes is part of personal branding, is what I'm saying.
So the brand, as with a corporate brand actually, the personal brand evolves over time and has to adjust to new realities. Which kind of brings me to technology and the relationship between technology and personal branding. Now, I am personally of the opinion that technology has actually had, let me finish before you start shaking your head, Ambi.
I was just nodding and saying yes to what you were saying, yaar.
Okay, so my idea is that actually I think with mobile technology, that the whole branding scene has really exploded. That, with the selfie, with the camera, the mobile phone camera, that has made a dramatic change, this kind of self-reflection, in a sense, being the subject, being in control of you being the subject as opposed to a cameraman, which were rare opportunities. I think personal branding has therefore is an extension of modern technology, and it would never have occupied this space if it were not for that. What are your thoughts?
Well, all of us tend to think personal branding was something which was thought of after, selfie and LinkedIn and smartphones with cameras came. It's not true. The first article on personal branding was written by, Tom Peters as a cover story in the Fast Company magazine. Said brand called you, right? So it's 25 years ago, huh? Not yesterday, 25 years ago. So personal branding is not a new concept, propagated by LinkedIn and Instagram. It's been there. Those days, the way you built personal brand was different. You use different tools and techniques. Like in my book, I have one whole chapter I've dedicated to, I believe, the most masterful personal brand builder this country or the world has ever seen, which is who? Mahatma Gandhi. I know some of you may throw something at me, but read the chapter, right? He changed the way he looked, so he changed the dress, and he's written it in his autobiography that I wanted to identify myself with a farmer. Therefore, I decided to go, and he threw away all his Western clothes, just like I shaved my beard in a different era, threw away all his Western clothes and started wearing a dhoti, right? And then he started writing in very simple English, very simple Gujarati. He created his own media, which was, Indian Nation newspaper he created, and he wrote in that. And he said, I want to have music. He started using music. So he was a master personal brand builder, right? So if you think personal brand building is new, it is not. I mean, it's always been there. And I think Mahatma Gandhi was masterful at building his brand. And, his core was what? You asked for three words, right? His core was the truth. Mahatma Gandhi stood for, you shouldn't whistle for Mahatma Gandhi, I think. I know you all have that, Munna Bhai made Mahatma Gandhi cool, but still, right? So he used music, he used the way he looked, he used writing, communication, and then how he talked. The whole concept of calling it Sabarmati Ashram, right? I mean, it's Sabarmati home for him. He called it ashram, right? He brought religion in, right? Great master. I mean, wonderful. I mean, look at it. I mean, no one has built a brand better than him, I suppose. So, I mean, he's a personal brand, right? But the myth is personal branding can be done only with selfies, can only be done with this. No, you can build a personal brand even without all that. This day and age, maybe you need to be on certain social media platforms. That's my view.
Ashwin, would you like to defend my position?
Frankly, from a perspective of individual brands, not corporate, I think it has become far easier. In fact, it has become far easier and it has become far more difficult. I'll explain both sides of it. Easier in the sense that to build a brand during the time of Gandhi required you to make a Herculean effort in terms of your reach. Whereas today, you can actually, we are living in a world where there can be a lot of people who become famous for being famous. So, which means, in other words, they are actually animals of social media. And if you were to try and find out what is it that they actually do, they don't do anything besides social media. So, in the sense that they have these humongous followings, which are products of their personal brand on social media. So that is one change that has happened. But the problem with that, Antoine, is that we also now have everyone saying, listen to me, listen to me. The cacophony of voices is so loud, the long tail is so long that the chances of your voice being heard are that much reduced. The odds of you being heard are that much lowered. So which means, in other words, that you have a far better technology platform on which you can leverage, but on the other hand, you need to work far harder at it in order to make that happen. At least my personal view is that platforms will come and go. Today, Instagram happens to be the thing. You ask my son, he'll probably say, what's Instagram? Snapchat is what I use. On the other hand, of course, there will be the great LinkedIn influencers who will say, listen guys, all this stuff is frivolous. There was a time when Facebook had all the power, right? Today you have YouTube influencers who are running into the millions. These platforms or technologies will come and go. Before social media, there were those who had a lot of influence because of their columns. There were those who had influence because of the books they turned out. As you started out this session by saying that in my growing up years, I didn't really know what Irving Wallace or Ken Follett or Jeffrey Archer looked like. But they still had a brand because you picked up the book based on that name that you saw on the cover. So to say that simply because the face wasn't associated with it, it wasn't a brand, that's not true. So I think platforms, technologies will come and go. But as far as brands are concerned, they will, if they are here to stay, they will evolve and adapt to those changing technologies and platforms.
Fair enough. Tapan, where do you weigh in on this with social media? Do you think that it's made it easier or it's made it more challenging?
So if you look at it now, if you're open, if you're transparent, and if you're open to taking feedback, tough feedbacks, it's easy for you. If you're in a shell, if you have like preconceived notions about yourself and you have a view which may be different from the view that other world has, it exposes you very, very strong. So it actually opens up to you as a person. So if you're very open, and it's perfectly fine to have feedback, it's very fine to have criticism, social media is an amazing place because you get it all there. Like you can't be in an ivory castle and only hear good things about yourself. There you hear everything, good, bad, ugly, you hear as it is, some may be targeted, some may be open. So it depends on how you take it up. So for me personally, I find it very intriguing and I find it very interesting and I love to be there. Because I also take up issues, so it is not that I would try to build a particular brand. I write about spiritualism, I write about, let's say, once I felt that the MBA word is being used as a marketing tool to convince kids that don't do MBA, they'll fail in life. I started a series called Street MBA very early on, in which I said it is bullshit. It is like creating a caste system in education, that you want to succeed, you do an MBA. I try to break that myth through my shows and articles which I wrote there. But those days it was to be a 25-minute content and that was doing fine. Over time I realized when all the Insta started coming in that the content more than 5 minutes is getting too long for people. Then I started a series called Talk to Tapan, which is just a 3-minute or 2-minute content which starts coming through. So fundamentally pick up issues that you feel are relevant for society. And it has nothing to do with my company as such. I felt that is a very strong thing which is very relevant and so many kids should not get left behind with this thinking or the way or spiritualism in the corporate world, or does it exist and how should it be looked into. So then I started writing about that. So you have to pick up relevant topics, be open to different diverse views, be very humble about it. That's an amazing place to be. You start making ego of yourself and start positioning yourself at one place and you can't take criticism, then you have a tough time.
But just to take up something that Ashwin picked up on and also what I want to talk about is about how now the platform has, because of its easy accessibility, has a lot of voices on it and the long tail is really long. So where should you be on it? Should you be like an Elon Musk or a Trump where you're always saying something controversial and someone is like constantly picking up, so then whether you like it or not, that does pick up attention, that catches eyeballs? Or do you take a lower, quieter position? What do you think is a better way to go?
Your personality. Ask Trump to take a lower position, will he? No. So it's your personality. So that's why I said the era of trying to build a brand, that's why I'm trying to contradict the thought process that you have to build a brand. I'm trying to just put forward you have to be yourself. Like if you look at Mahatma Gandhi also, I don't think he thought of building a brand. He did what he felt was relevant as a messaging to his people for the freedom fight movement. He did that and that became a brand. So I think the way I'm trying to turn this on the head is your personality. Mr. Trump cannot take a position which is on the silent side, and somebody like an Elon Musk cannot do so. I think for them, if that doesn't happen, I don't think they would relish it. So they're perfectly fine with it and they go ahead with it. Now, if you don't have that personality and you take that position, in 2 days' time you'll be in a suicidal thought, but it is a very difficult position to be there because the amount of backlash also you get is huge, and you have to have that kind of personality to handle that and do that. And there's some people who are soft, and for them to take that position and think that that's how I will build a brand and enter into that would be the very, very wrong step. So today's brand creation is not about what people tell you, it's about who you are and what you're comfortable with. Just be that. It itself is a very powerful brand. You yourself are a very powerful brand. Remember that irrespective of who you are. So I think
Ambi, would you agree with that? That the person, who you are and the personal brand are both the same, or can they be different?
I think these two cannot be delinked. This is, in my book I've talked about it, because, very often you say, I want to build a personal brand, and I start posting stuff on LinkedIn, and I start doing some random stuff. That's not going to work, right? So first you have to discover what you are and what people say about you. Is it correct? Do you want to change it, right? So start with what you are. And then once you figured out what you are, then you can do things to build that brand. That could be, for example, not doing anything on social media, right? And I have dedicated a whole chapter on networking, which I want to talk a bit on, because networking normally you think is, going and distributing visiting cards. It's not. Networking is deeper level engagement in another activity where you get to meet a whole new set of people, right? So networking is a part of building your personal brand. Your executive presence is a part of your personal brand. Executive communication part of your personal brand. How you write your memo is a part of your personal brand. I remember we had a wonderful film manager in Bombay and a wonderful branch manager in Chennai, Minita and Anu. And they used to have these huge slanging matches on email. And many of them were all caps. In email, when you write all caps, it's equal to shouting. Because some kids are here, I'm just telling them. Never use all caps, right? And I said, look, you two are actually nice people. What is wrong with you? So I said, Minita, come to Bombay, and Anu, come here, sit down, you guys sort it out. And they talked, and half an hour later, everything was sorted out, right? So the way you write, the way you talk, everything goes about building your personal brand. Once you've done that, once you got that clarity, this is what I want to stand for broadly, and this is how I project myself, right? And then you say, okay, I want to amplify. Social media can help you amplify it, whether it is through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. So it's just the topping. What is, and I agree with what Tapan said, what is at the core is what you are. What do you stand for? Don't try to be someone else. I appreciate Harsh Goenka. He's a big leader, but on Twitter he's taken on the role of a very funny tweeter. Very funny. His tweets are really great fun, right? And he's a industrialist worth several 100,000 crores or something. And once I remember telling him, very funny, your tweets. He said, yeah, actually someone has put together a book of my funny tweets, and I found it on the net, right? So that's him. He's having fun. So he's using Twitter to create an entirely different dimension. Anand Mahindra, very different. Always about India, about Mahindra, this product, Mahindra, that product. At one time, if you had a problem with any of your Mahindra vehicle, the way to get instant attention was to tweet and tag Anand Mahindra to it, right? You got quick service. So each to his own, but start with the core. Start with the core material. What are you? What are you good at? What do people say about you? And then decide how do you want to project it in whichever way you want. Whether to go and give talks, or to go and participate in competitions, or to come for LitFest, or write books, or write columns, or be on LinkedIn, or whatever, right? It starts with the core. Mahatma Gandhi, when he came back, he said, I want to fight for the freedom of the country. And the important thing is, I want to be identified as one of the common man. I don't want to be seen as a barrister returning from London wearing his three-piece suit. Started from there. I want to be genuine. I want to be truthful. And then he went about, doing his job, and the brand got built. Automatically the brand got built. But he used all the right levers even before we in marketing had figured out what are those levers. Today we talk of paid, owned and earned media. Those of you in marketing know that. Paid, owned and earned media. Mahatma Gandhi created own media then, right? He published his own magazines, his own books. There are apparently something like some 60 or 80 volumes of his writings, which are archived, which is amazing amount, and he fought for the freedom of the country and he kept writing. God knows how he wrote all that. But what Tapan says is right. Who are you? Define your core. What do you want to stand for? And then think about building your personal brand. Don't do it the other way around.
Fair enough. Well, I think we can still go on talking, but we should kind of draw the audience in for some questions. So if you have any questions, Do we have mics in the...
Okay, my question is to anyone.
Okay, to everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
So, what would you do if you are nobody and you want to build a brand? What are the steps you will take?
Okay. Ambi, can we start with you on that one?
First of all, you're not a nobody. There is
Very
no
glad
one.
you said
There
that.
is no one in this room who's a nobody. Everyone is a somebody. Minimum, you're someone's son, someone's brother, right? Start from there. So there's no one like a nobody. Everyone is a somebody, and that somebody has some qualities which people see are good, which could be friendly, helping, whatever it is, whatever it may be. There are some qualities in you. Start from there. Brand अपने आप build हो जाएगा. And then later you may want to do a few things in social media, that's up to you. But there is no one who is a nobody. That's my short answer.
Fabulous, Ambi. That's very perfect. Tapan, please go ahead.
So I'll just ask you one question. What do you really love the most? No? बहुत आपको क्या चीज़ बहुत अच्छी लगती है? What are you very passionate about? No? What is something that you'll give your life for? Start from there. No? Talk about it, write about it. Say he writes about food, he writes about wine. I'm very passionate about it. No? Ashwin writes about mystery, about mythology. He's very passionate. He writes about brand. So if you look at all the three who are so successful here, they are writing and doing things which they love to do. So start from there. जो भी जब बहुत ही पसंद है, just write about it, speak about it, and don't worry about who reads, what people say. Just don't worry. You just be naturally, and let it be out there. And you start slowly seeing that as you enjoy the process, it will build up for you. If you start targeting that I want to be a brand and start from here, then it will not happen. Just start from this just simple baby step like this, and I'm sure one day you will be a big brand.
Ashwin?
So, I would only say one thing, that I've always believed, and I agree 100% with what Tapan just said, that if you are lucky in your life, then you get to do what you love. If you are a little luckier, then you get to do what you love and you're also good at it. And if you're really lucky, then you get to do what you love, you're also good at it, and someone's willing to pay you for it. So my advice would be work in stages so that you can get to that, and you'll realize that the brand has happened along the way.
Hi.
So actually,
What's your name, sir?
Aniket Saraf.
Aniket, you have got 3 wonderful answers and 3 very, very honest and very, very helpful answers. I hope that kind of really puts you in the right direction for your to create your own brand.
Good afternoon, sir. Actually, my question is for all 4 of you. What is the difference between corporate brand and personal brand, and what do you exactly mean personal brand?
Okay, I think we spent 45 minutes on that. Yeah, but I think, Ambi, I'm going to let you just wrap it up quickly.
Okay. Introduce yourself. You're a student. Where are you? What are you?
I am a student,
Which class?
9th grade.
9th grade. Okay. So I pardon you for asking this question, because if you're an MBA and you ask this question, I would have sent you back to your business school to spend 2 additional years to figure out what is a corporate brand and what is a personal brand. So simplest answer, Tata Group is a corporate brand. Mr. Ratan Tata is a personal brand. Mr. Chandrasekharan is a personal brand. He has his own difference, right? Tata is a big group. Chandra is CEO of Tata Sons. But there is something interesting about Chandra. What is it? He runs a marathon. He has run 8 marathons all over the world, right? That's a distinctive thing about his personal brand. So corporate brand, Mahindra Group, Anand Mahindra, personal brand. RPG Group, corporate brand, which owns brands like Seat and KEC, personal brand, Harsh Goenka. So it's simple. Once you're still young, you'll be, and then of course, I don't want to confuse you. There is corporate brand, there is product brand, right? Product brands are, Lux and Santur and Suntrop are product brands. There are service brands. Service brands are Amazon. You heard Amazon, right? It's a service brand. Airtel, that's a service brand. Then there are personal brands. I told you some names.
Yes.
Then there are what are called charity brands, right? Which is like World Wildlife, right? Greenpeace, they are charity brands. So there are multiple brands. You're still young. You will learn. By the time you grow up, there may be another 100 types of brands.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else has a question?
Good afternoon.
Arshil can't. You can't ask, yaar. Arshil is senior executive of Crossword Bookstores. He's read all our books. He's read all our tweets. He's read all our stuff.
Thank you. So the question is, what if
So who is the question for?
Okay, Ambi maybe, and if anyone if Tapan sir also would like to add. So what if the immediate boss doesn't want you to be get your personal brand sort of mushroom in, or so how do you maybe in terms of corporate, if Ambi and Tapan sir could answer that. So how do you?
Yeah, Tapan wants to. I've been speaking too much. So
Okay.
I'll speak out of my personal experiences. That will be helpful.
Yes.
No, I mentioned that early when I started writing, and picking it up, and I had strong views. So people senior to me, board members, made this comment which I mentioned that you spend too much time on social media, and I mentioned that you spend too little. So one is the belief that you have, that should be there. Second, I've always stood for individual freedom, but not at the conflict of society, but individual freedom, and I have never allowed anybody to try to stifle it. It doesn't matter. At the most, I may have to look for another job, which is good enough. I don't have to worry about that. And same, I have pushed my team also. And that's why, remember earlier on I said that, no, I don't try to put any straitjacketing in terms of how it is. There are people who are aligned to the organization, there are people who not be aligned, but they are individually very good in what they are. And there are organizations to which they may be aligned. That's a different thing altogether. So never be pushed back, in terms of, and I'll give you another example, is my daughter, which is actually interesting. She's a doctor, she's a gynecologist. If you look at one of the early reels or doctors which became very popular, it was her, Ashwin Sanghi. It went into millions of views in the COVID time, Then her professors pushed back, saying you're a doctor and you can't do Insta reels, And she asked me, I did say that please continue, but she stopped, So there are two different personalities. If I speak about myself, when I was told, I did not. I believe that what I believe in, I will be who I am. Same time, my own daughter, who actually at a very short notice became a huge influencer on Insta, but she stopped when she got a pushback, saying that as a doctor, you can't be seen as a frivolous, putting reels up on Insta. Now it's become very popular. Every doctor is there on that. But early on, I think she was the early forefront of getting it on. Now, who is right or wrong, I do not know. It's your choice. But if you ask me personally, my belief is do what you feel is right and don't worry about who and what is. In today's world, it is what should be. Don't get pushed back by anything now.
Ambi, Tapan, Ashwin, thank you so much. I think this was a really fun and very engaging conversation. So I hope all of you guys enjoyed it as well.
Thank you.